People often underestimate the power of their internal dialogue. They think it's just noise. But it's not. It's programming. It's scripting your future behaviors, decisions, reactions. If your mind is filled with "I'm not good enough," then you will never take the kind of risks that growth requires. If your thoughts are soaked in "what if I fail," then you will never discover what happens when you succeed. Resetting your thoughts doesn't mean lying to yourself. It means learning to tell a better truth. A deeper truth. Not "I will never fail," but "even if I fail, I will not break." Not "I am already the best," but "I am willing to improve every single day." When you wake up in the morning, your thoughts already have a head start. They start running before you even open your eyes. They tell you to stay in bed. They tell you it's too hard. They remind you of yesterday's mistakes. They push your dreams to the back of your mind and pull your worries to the front. And unless you intervene, unless you choose to lead your thoughts instead of being led by them, they will shape your entire day before you've taken your first step. So before anything else, you must begin your mornings with intention. Not perfection, intention. That means choosing again and again to focus not on what is outside your control, but what's within it. You can't always control what happens, but you can control how you interpret it. You can't always control what people say, but you can control whether their words get a seat at your mental table. And you can't always control the outcome of your efforts, but you can control the mindset with which you work, and that mindset, in the long run, matters more than any single result. Too many people wait until life breaks them before they reset their minds. They wait until everything collapses before they start asking deeper questions. But you don't need a crisis to begin. You need discipline. You need awareness. You need the humility to admit that maybe your current way of thinking isn't helping you anymore. That maybe the thoughts that brought you this far won't carry you the rest of the way. And that's okay. That's growth. You see, mental clarity doesn't come from control. It comes from surrendering to the process of evolution. Just as a snake sheds its skin to survive, you must shed outdated beliefs to become who you were meant to be. Holding on to old ways of thinking just because they're familiar is the fastest way to stay stuck. And life, real life, doesn't wait for people who are afraid to grow. If you want to reset your thoughts, surround yourself with people who stretch your mind, not just those who agree with you. Agreement might feel good, but it doesn't always lead to insight. It's when you are challenged, respectfully and intelligently, that your thinking begins to deepen. Don't be afraid of disagreement. Be afraid of stagnation. A mind that is never questioned becomes arrogant. A mind that is never exposed to new ideas becomes outdated. Seek out conversations that make you think harder. Listen to voices that pull you out of your comfort zone. Not to follow them, but to see yourself more clearly. And above all, train yourself to keep moving forward, even when no one sees it. The best kind of progress is often invisible. It's in the morning you got out of bed when everything in you wanted to quit. It's in the conversation you had with yourself that changed your attitude before it changed your situation. It's in the days you showed up, stayed quiet, did the work, and refused to look for shortcuts. That kind of discipline rewires your thoughts. It teaches your mind that you don't need perfect circumstances to build something powerful. You only need consistency. Resetting your thoughts also means rejecting the lie that your past defines you. You are not your worst day. You are not your most painful memory. You are not the version of yourself that made all those mistakes. You are a story still being written, and your thoughts are the pen. If you keep rereading the same chapter, you'll never finish the book. Let your past teach you, but don't let it trap you. Learn to smile at who you used to be, not because you approve of every decision, but because you see how far you've come. That perspective doesn't come from the outside. It comes from a mind that has been trained to see growth instead of shame. Each day, life gives you a chance to feed your thoughts something better, something wiser, something that expands your view of the world and your place in it. Feed your mind with people who speak with depth, with stories that challenge your assumptions, with lessons that make you think long after they're over. The more you feed your mind well, the less you'll crave the mental junk food of gossip, envy, comparison, and negativity. Thoughts are not just reactions, they are nutrition. They either make you stronger or weaker, depending on what you consume. And at the end of each day, don't just collapse into sleep. Reflect. What did I learn today? What did I handle better than yesterday? What thought kept trying to control me? And did I fight back? That self-awareness practiced daily becomes a weapon. It keeps your inner world sharp. It reminds you that your progress is not about how much attention you get, but about how much discipline you kept when no one was looking. You won't reset your thoughts in one day. You'll do it in moments. Tiny choices that accumulate. Each time you think before reacting, that's a reset. Each time you question a limiting belief, that's a reset. Each time you replace blame with responsibility, fear with action, hesitation with effort, that's a reset. So start there, not with a big announcement, not with a perfect plan, just with a simple decision. I will think better. I will do the work. And I will no longer let my past, my fear, or my habits be the loudest voice in my head. Because once you take back your thoughts, you take back your life. You are not born with a strong mind. You build one, brick by brick, choice by choice, over time. Some people think success starts with intelligence. Others think it's about connections or capital. But I've lived long enough, failed often enough, and rebuilt repeatedly enough to tell you this: everything you want begins in your mind. Not the part of your mind that the world can see, the part you keep to yourself. That invisible place where your fears, your doubts, your self-belief, and your old wounds live together. It is in that place, where no one is watching, that your future begins. You can learn every business strategy in the world, take every course, follow every formula. But if your thoughts are full of hesitation, insecurity, shame, or excuses, none of those strategies will work. Why? Because the mind always finds a way to sabotage what the heart does not believe it deserves. That's why before you seek external success, you must go inside and clean house. You must reset what you've been rehearsing internally for years. Because if your mind is still running old scripts, no new chapter can begin. So many people are stuck not because they lack skill, but because they're loyal to outdated thought patterns. Patterns inherited from fear-based parenting, from schools that taught them to obey instead of think, from workplaces that trained them to stay quiet and follow. Over time, these environments become internalized, they become beliefs. And without realizing it, people start to see life not through their eyes, but through the limitations they were taught to accept. But what you were taught is not always what is true. You are allowed to challenge the way you think. You are allowed to rebuild your philosophy. You are allowed to become someone new, someone stronger, by beginning with one small decision to think differently. But let me be honest with you. Resetting your thoughts is not a motivational slogan. It's not something you do once after reading a speech or watching a video. It's a way of life. It's a habit you repeat every single day until your mind starts believing that you're serious about change. And even then, you'll still need to repeat it. Because the brain, like a wild horse, will run back to comfort, to fear, to old routes if you do not train it daily. Training your thoughts is like going to the gym. You don't get strong once. You stay strong by continuing to show up, especially when you don't feel like it. You reset your thoughts every morning when you wake up and say to yourself, today, I will not act out of fear. Today, I will do what needs to be done even if it feels uncomfortable. Today, I will think clearly, not emotionally. Today, I will keep promises to myself. That kind of internal dialogue is powerful. It rewires the narrative you've been telling yourself for years. And your narrative, not your resume, is what truly shapes your future. Some people wake up and immediately begin rehearsing failure. Before they even leave the bed, they're thinking of what might go wrong, who might reject them, what they didn't do yesterday. And they carry that energy like a cloud over their heads all day long. But there's another way. You can wake up and start rehearsing resilience. You can rehearse solutions. You can rehearse calm. You can choose, not once but 100 times throughout the day, to replace unhelpful thoughts with useful ones. Not perfect ones, useful ones. Because the goal isn't to be positive all the time. The goal is to think in a way that helps you move forward. I've seen brilliant people fail because their thoughts betrayed them in moments of pressure. And I've seen ordinary people do extraordinary things because they trained their minds to stay focused when the world was in chaos. That's the difference between those who last and those who fade. Not intelligence, not talent, not luck, thought control, discipline of the internal world. Every day, the world offers you reasons to be reactive. News, opinions, gossip, frustration, disappointment. But every day, you also have a choice: respond or react. The difference is subtle, but life-changing. When you react, you let external circumstances hijack your internal state. When you respond, you acknowledge the situation, but you don't let it shake your foundation. You keep your center. That's what mental strength looks like. Calm under pressure, focus without applause, decisiveness in the middle of noise. But you don't get to that point overnight. You train for it. Just like athletes train their bodies, you must train your mind. And that training often begins in solitude, in silence. 10 minutes of stillness can reveal what 10 hours of distraction hide. Sit with yourself. No phone, no background noise, no pretending. Just sit. Let the thoughts come. Let the fear speak. Let the anger rise. And then observe. Don't judge. Just witness. Over time, you will begin to recognize your patterns. And when you can see them, you can change them. When you get angry easily, when you spiral into self-doubt, when you avoid responsibility, these aren't just behaviors. They are mental reflexes you've practiced. And anything you've practiced, you can unlearn. You can break the loop. You can write a new script. But only if you're willing to face yourself honestly. Most people avoid that kind of honesty because it's uncomfortable. But comfort is a poor teacher. Growth doesn't come from what feels easy. It comes from what feels real. You must also protect your mental environment. Surround yourself with people who sharpen your thinking, people who challenge you, people who don't let you hide behind your excuses. The quality of your thoughts is often shaped by the people you speak to most. If your circle is full of complainers, you'll think in complaints. If your circle is full of builders, you'll think in solutions. This doesn't mean cutting everyone off. It means being intentional about what you allow into your mental space. Guard your mind like you guard your money, because it's more valuable than anything in your wallet. And then there's this. Learn to enjoy being underestimated. Some of the most powerful transformations happen when nobody is watching, when no one believes in you, when no one expects anything from you. That's when you have complete freedom to rebuild in silence. Let your progress be your response. Let your transformation be your answer. Stop announcing what you're going to do and start becoming it quietly, relentlessly. The most dangerous person in the room is not the loudest. It's the one who has trained in the dark and arrives ready without warning. Remember this, you don't reset your thoughts to impress anyone. You do it to align your life with who you truly are. You do it to stop being a prisoner of past experiences. You do it to meet the future version of yourself who is already waiting, stronger, wiser, and more free. That version isn't found through luck or chance. It's built habit by habit, thought by thought, day by day. You don't have to wait for a breakdown to begin. You don't need a dramatic turning point. All you need is the courage to decide that you are no longer willing to live with the same tired thoughts that kept you small. Today can be the beginning. A beginning with no audience, no announcement, no permission. Just you, quietly rewriting the code of your own mind. And if you do this consistently, over time something amazing happens. Your outer life begins to reflect your inner change. People will ask, what happened? They'll say, you seem different. And you'll smile, not because you have all the answers, but because you finally took control of the only thing that ever really mattered, the way you think. Most people never realize how malnourished their minds have become. We live in a world where information flows faster than water, yet the majority of what we consume is mental junk food. Scrolling through noise, tapping through distractions, soaking in opinions, outrage, trends, and gossip. We think we're informed, but we're often just infected with recycled emotions, shallow comparisons, and fleeting entertainment. It's no wonder so many people feel lost, unmotivated, confused about their purpose. It's not that they're weak. It's that their minds are starving. You don't need more time. You don't need more intelligence. You need more clarity. And clarity comes from feeding your mind with quality, consistently, deliberately, patiently. You become what you think about, but before that, you think about what you're surrounded by. If all you feed your mind is complaints, fear, and cheap drama, then your thoughts will reflect the same energy. Scattered, emotional, reactive. But when you start feeding your mind with one good idea every day, everything changes. I don't mean big ideas that take hours to absorb. I mean small seeds, but the kind that carry truth, the kind that push you to think deeper, to look higher, to move differently. Sometimes one paragraph from a book can reset your whole perspective. One sentence from a great thinker can strike you harder than 1,000 videos. One story from someone who failed, got back up, and kept walking can stay with you for years. But to find those moments, you have to build the habit of seeking. Most people are too busy reacting. They never stop to ask, what is feeding my mind today? They protect their phones with passwords, but leave their minds open to anything. If you want to reset your thoughts, you must become a guardian of your mental diet. You don't have to read 10 books a month to be wise. You just have to be intentional. Read one page, but read it slowly. Reflect. Think. Don't just rush to finish. Rush to understand. Let the idea live with you. Let it challenge you. Let it get under your skin. That's how transformation begins. You take one powerful idea and you hold it in your mind like a compass. You ask, what would happen if I actually lived this? How would my choices change? How would I handle this problem differently? Most people collect information like souvenirs, but never apply it. Application is what makes a good idea become part of you. If you truly want to build mental strength, stop binging on opinions and start studying principles. There's a difference. Opinions are loud. Principles are quiet. Opinions change every week. Principles last a lifetime. Opinions entertain. Principles empower. A principle doesn't care about trends, it just works. So start asking yourself, what are the timeless truths I'm building my mind on? Are they based on experience, character, real stories, and tested wisdom? Or are they just borrowed from whoever shouts the loudest? You also need to know the difference between consumption and contemplation. Just because you listened to a podcast doesn't mean you grew. Just because you heard a motivational speech doesn't mean you've changed. Growth happens in the quiet moments after the content ends. When you sit alone, reflect, take notes, and ask yourself how to practice what you just heard, that's where the real value is. That's when the idea moves from the screen to your soul, from theory to thought pattern. I've met people who have read 1,000 books but are still paralyzed by indecision and doubt. And I've met others who read one book carefully, applied its core lesson for 6 months, and completely rewired their mindset. It's not about how much you consume, it's about how much you absorb. We live in a culture addicted to more. More knowledge, more speed, more information. But wisdom doesn't grow from more. It grows from depth. It grows from patience. It grows from the willingness to wrestle with hard truths. There will be days when you're too tired to read or listen. That's okay. Don't aim for perfection. Aim for consistency. Even 5 minutes of quality input is better than an hour of mindless scrolling. Maybe you start the day with one page of philosophy, or you end your night with one story of a real entrepreneur who fought through failure. You do this not because you're chasing success, but because you're training your inner voice. And that voice becomes your GPS when life gets confusing. People say motivation doesn't last. Of course it doesn't. Neither does food. That's why you eat every day. Your thoughts are the same. They need daily fuel. Not every thought will be profound. Not every idea will be life-changing. But you're building a structure, one brick at a time. And after months, you look back and realize the way you speak has changed. The way you react to pressure has improved. The way you treat people, the way you treat yourself, it all starts to elevate. Not because you had one magical moment, but because you honored the slow process of feeding your mind one good thing every day. Some people say they don't have time to learn. I always smile at that. You don't need time, you need priorities. 10 minutes while you drink your tea, that's enough. One commute, one walk, one pause between meetings. Turn off the noise and turn on one thoughtful message. Keep a small book in your bag. Write one insight down every day. Over a year, that's 365 thoughts you've planted. That's a forest, a mental ecosystem that breathes clarity, purpose, and strength into your daily life. Your current mindset is not your final mindset. You're not stuck. You're just untrained. But like any muscle, the mind grows with repetition. Feed it like you feed your body, with intention, with rhythm, with love. Protect it like a sacred space. Because one good idea, well applied, can do more than inspire you. It can save you. It can stop you from quitting. It can help you rise when life tries to bury you. It can open your eyes to a path you didn't know existed. And when others ask how you stay so grounded, so focused, so calm in chaos, you'll smile. Not because you have all the answers, but because you made one small decision every day to feed your mind with something that matters. That's how thought becomes strength. That's how habits become character. That's how the quiet work you do alone turns into the unshakable presence people feel when you walk into a room. And that is the power of one daily idea. One of the biggest reasons people get stuck in life is because they believe the whole world is watching them. Every move they make, every step they take, they imagine eyes following them, judging, whispering, criticizing. It's like they're living on a stage, performing for an invisible audience they never signed up to entertain. So they hesitate, they avoid risks, they silence their ideas, they settle for less. Not because they lack talent or vision, but because they think they're under constant surveillance. Let me tell you something that will immediately set your thoughts free. Most people are not thinking about you. They're too busy thinking about themselves. They're not waking up analyzing your mistakes. They're not going to sleep obsessing over your choices. They're not dissecting your awkward moments the way you do. You know why? Because they're consumed by their own fears, their own problems, their own insecurities. Just like you. That's the irony. We all walk around worrying about what everyone else is thinking about us, when in reality, almost everyone else is too busy worrying about what we're thinking about them. And this illusion keeps millions of people trapped. It's a strange kind of prison, one with invisible bars. You walk through life feeling like you're being watched, evaluated, graded. You hold back your questions in meetings. You smile when you don't mean it. You wear a mask because you think your real face isn't enough. You water down your dreams because you don't want to be called crazy. You don't post your ideas, you don't start your project, you don't launch your product. Not because it isn't good, but because you're imagining voices saying, "Who do you think you are?" But what if you realize those voices aren't real? What if you understood that most people scroll past your mistakes within seconds and forget them even faster? That most people don't have the time or attention span to track your failures. That even if they laugh or criticize, it's usually a reflection of their own unspoken fears, not a true judgment of your worth. Once you internalize this, something incredible happens. You become free. Free to experiment, free to fall down, free to look silly, free to try again. Because the fear that once gripped you begins to dissolve. You stop shrinking your personality to fit inside someone else's comfort zone. You stop treating other people's opinions like absolute truth. You stop living for applause and start living from purpose. And this is where everything begins to shift. When you stop imagining the crowd, you start hearing your own voice more clearly. You start making decisions based on alignment, not approval. You choose courage over comfort. You take responsibility for your happiness. You understand that greatness has never belonged to the ones who played it safe and waited for permission. It belongs to the people who kept moving forward even when they were misunderstood, criticized, or ignored. It's important to realize that people's opinions, even when they do express them, are not your business. Your business is your discipline, your integrity, your mission. If someone mocks your dream, let them. Their laughter doesn't slow your progress. If someone doubts your potential, let them. Their disbelief doesn't cancel your effort. If someone misunderstands your path, keep walking. Their confusion is not your burden to carry. It's hard to fully reset your thoughts if your mind is constantly rehearsing imaginary conversations, imaginary judgments, and imaginary failures. Let go of the mental theater. You don't owe anyone a performance. You don't need to impress anyone to earn your existence. Your life is not an audition. You already have the role, and it's called being yourself, fully, unapologetically, and with intention. I've seen people waste years holding back because of one sentence someone said 10 years ago. A teacher who called them stupid, a friend who laughed at their idea, a parent who dismissed their passion, and that one sentence played on repeat like a bad soundtrack, holding them hostage. Let me say this clearly. The words others use do not have the power to define you unless you give them that power. Take it back. Rewrite the script. Replace that voice with your own. The one that says, I may not be perfect, but I'm growing. I may not have all the answers, but I have a fire inside me that refuses to be extinguished.